Hey everybody, I'm back, and today I want to talk about Jehovah's Witnesses and Thanksgiving, the holiday that I never understood why we can't celebrate it. Especially in school, it was impossible to explain why we don't do it. A little backstory. I grew up in Europe. English is my second language, as many of you know who've watched older videos of mine. But I moved to the States when I was 14, and we didn't have Thanksgiving in Europe. So it was new to me, as was Halloween at the time. A lot of things have swapped over to other continents because of Hollywood and movies. So I think Halloween has become bigger in Europe. But when I was young and little, I did not even know about Halloween. I did not know about Thanksgiving. And so moving to the States, it was just a new experience. And, as the holidays approach, people in school are getting really excited. What are you doing for Thanksgiving? Where are you going? And, us being a Jehovah's Witness family, very firm Jehovah's Witness family, firm in the faith, we naturally didn't celebrate it. And my stepdad was an American, so he also didn't celebrate it, even though he was kind of wishy-washy with some things. But that's another story for another day. So we didn't celebrate it, but the kids in school said, why don't you do Thanksgiving? And here I had all the answers when it came to Christmas and Easter. That's really easy to explain. When we get into the birthday category, I thought it was a little bit harder, but Thanksgiving to me was kind of hard to explain. It's a day where family comes together. It's a day where people say things like, what's wrong with that? And when you use the argument, well, the pilgrims and, they weren't true Christians and all that, that is such nonsense. Because if you look back on another video of mine that I'll link in the comment, we do things that are pagan, and we do things that are non-Jehovah's Witness. Jehovah's Witnesses didn't even exist in the Pilgrim age. I mean, the J-Dubs will claim that there's always been witnesses of Jehovah on earth. Well, maybe some of the pilgrims were witnesses of Jehovah on this earth before the religion was founded by Charles T. Russell in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, USA. Oh, it's so wild. But we could not really explain this well. And it was just super far-fetched. And it makes you kind of think, I would try to avoid that topic because I just always felt really kind of embarrassed not being able to explain this with my Bible in hand. And then we'll use some far-fetched scriptures like, what does lightness have to do with darkness? And you can't put one drop of poison. It's not a scripture, but that's like a J-Dub saying, in a glass of water, it spoils the whole water. Okay, fine. But yet, we have customs that we have accepted as okay that have pagan roots. For example, the wedding ring. The wedding ring is pagan. The white wedding dress stems from a tradition, a custom that originated, I think, in England. When one of the queens got married, she chose a white dress. You could argue that's false religion, Church of England, whatever. The veil. The veil was used as a pagan belief that you hide the bride from demons, and you use bridesmaids to confuse the demons so they can't attack the bride and they don't know who the bride is. The cake has pagan roots. I mean, we could go on and on. And J-Dubs kind of pick and choose with what pagan customs they use for weddings and whatnot, because I remember we didn't throw rice, and we would say, well, that is a pagan custom. Well, so is basically everything else about a wedding. A wedding is rooted in pagan and history, but it's also kind of just traditions and customs, and that's not always a bad thing. The things that people do that become a unique tradition to them doesn't always mean it has to have this bad, evil meaning. It's just that people didn't know any better. There weren't Jehovah's Witnesses. There wasn't hardly ever religion sometimes. And people just started worshiping nature and accepting nature as their guide. And before you have a Bible to read, before you know anything, that's the best they could do. There's nothing evil about that. And at the same time, we also have to take the Awake on piñatas. Look it up on the library. Such a good article when talking to J-Dubs. I will link it below, but it's easy to find. It's from a correspondent in Mexico. And this article basically says that a piñata has pagan roots. It's up to your conscience whether you want to use a piñata or not, which was a little shocking because I would think that Jehovah's Witnesses would say no piñatas, like, no fun ever. But they didn't in that article. And then it says that even though something is rooted in pagan customs and traditions, that does not matter. It matters what it is seen as today. That sentence can be used for everything. As a matter of fact, next time I see witnesses at the cart, I will go to them and ask them about that. Because if I start using the argument, it doesn't matter what it used to be, it matters how people view it today. Well, when people have a birthday cake today with candles, they do not think that they're blowing it out and like chasing away the demons. When people have a Christmas tree, they don't think anything of it except decoration. You can use this on anything. So here is the real reason why I think that we didn't celebrate Thanksgiving. I'm a 4th generation Jehovah's Witness. My kids were 5th. We were basically in it from way back, the beginning. And I remember my great-grandmother, who was in the concentration camp because she was a Jehovah's Witness, saying that when they would get to family get-togethers, first of all, Jehovah's Witnesses feel like they need to preach wherever they go. They preach. They can't hold in. They always preach. And they become preachy and annoying. So my great-grandma, firm in the faith and got to preach, when she would go to any family gathering, she would annoy the heck out of everybody and start preaching, while the rest of the family on that side was firm like Lutheran. So they all started fighting, but also arguing with their valid points that would counter the belief of Jehovah's Witnesses. And I think that Russell and Rutherford especially realize that it is not a good idea to have these festivities where we get together with our worldly families who challenge our beliefs. And we have in a cult such us versus them mentality. And so to keep us separate, it's better to have people not celebrate holidays because people talk at the holidays and you're stuck together. So us withdrawing from celebrations with the family keeps us isolated. That's point 1. Point 2 is, I think it was around Christmas time when the Jehovah's Witnesses early on still celebrated Christmas. And Rutherford had some activity that he wanted done. And the witnesses at Bethel, there's a Christmas tree at Bethel and everything. And by the way, that was after the spiritual cleaning that we talk about. So we had this whole inspection by Jesus in the prophecies, and yet they still celebrated Christmas. That's so weird. We still had a cross on the watchtower. Weird, but that's a side point. But people were busy with their families, spending their money on Christmas and being gone, and Rutherford was mad. When you're in a cult, the cult leader wants you to perform and work for the cult. He wants you to be available for the cult. And so he started changing the rules and started with scripture arguing that Christmas isn't Christian. Well, and honestly, he's not wrong. about that. Christmas isn't really Christian, if you look back at the history. But that's beside the point, because I don't think that his intention was pure. I don't think that his intention was, we have to really have pure worship, because the man was anything but pure himself. We'll make another video on that, because Rutherford was a crook. But he wanted people available back and call, no holidays. And guys, how many times did we go preaching on Christmas? Crazy. I remember one Christmas morning being out in service and knocking on people's doors and thinking this is so embarrassing. They just want to be home with their families and have some peace on your day off. You don't want to open the door to some J-dubs, Bible salesmen, as they call us. And also, shouldn't we be home with our families? How stupid. So that was the second reason. And also the third reason is cults love to be special. They have that collective narcissism, we're so good, we're so special, we don't celebrate this, we're so pure. And so with Thanksgiving, we act look at all these worldly people celebrating, they're so misguided. And in all reality, they're celebrating something with their families. And so many J-dubs do Thanksgiving. Come on, that was always so weird to me. So I move here, I learn we don't do Thanksgiving, and yet virtually almost every elder in our hall got a turkey for that day, had a meal, and had people over. And so they're this is a non-Thanksgiving, totally Thanksgiving meal. And really, there's nothing wrong with it. Should you boycott and not eat turkey that day? Whatever. But really, come on. It's a Thanksgiving. Jehovah's Witnesses totally celebrate Thanksgiving. They're just so pious that they act like they don't. They explain it to their Bible studies and interested ones how we don't celebrate Thanksgiving. And then they go and have a Thanksgiving meal. And maybe the very, very serious ones recognize maybe we shouldn't be doing this. But I would say lots of people totally have a Thanksgiving feast on Thanksgiving. So come on, people, stop the hypocrisy. Keep it real. You do Thanksgiving. Many in the congregation do totally have Thanksgiving. And in a way, I guess, good for you, because you're not letting Watchtower control your life. Oh boy. The one thing that I always had a really hard time explaining it to my kids were always critical thinkers and would ask questions and question you why this doesn't make sense. And so how I explained Thanksgiving, because it didn't make sense to them, was the thing that I actually agreed with is the indigenous people, the Native Americans, and how they suffered, and how a lot of Native Americans don't celebrate Thanksgiving because of all the suffering that went on. And you know what? I agreed with that too. I was I would show the kids videos about the history of the Native Americans during Thanksgiving, and I was at the very least, we can agree not to do this because we stand with Native Americans. And they agreed with that too, because if you don't know the history of what went on for the Native Americans, it was horrible during Thanksgiving. So I would say, we'll stand up for what is right for them. And my heart goes out to the community too, because it was awful. It was awful. But that being said, that is a decision that you can make with your family. And overall, I believe now that it is just a day where you come together. And I have my in-laws coming this week. I have my sister-in-law coming. We have family coming. We have a dear friend of ours coming, and we're gonna eat together. And we're just going to be thankful for that day. And I'm thankful that we're out of this high control religion. So whether you're PMO or POMO, enjoy that turkey. And if you're vegan or vegetarian, enjoy the tofu turkey. Have a great weekend. Bye, guys.